Good morning to the Knox County Board of Commissioners, June 16th, 2026 regular session. This morning we have some guests from the Muskingum Watershed Conservatory, and they're in our district. So I'm going to turn it over to you two gentlemen. You tell everybody who you are, and the floor is yours.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Good morning, Ethan Zuppel, Public Affairs and Safety Manager with Muskingum Watershed, and joined by our Executive Director, Craig Butler, and I'll turn it over to him in just a moment. But as we were discussing kind of before we got online here, we have 18 counties of which we have jurisdiction, and Knox County is one of those. So we always think transparency and communication is key, and so it's been a while since we've really gotten out and met with all of our county commissioners. So this year, as part of our strategic outreach, we're making sure we get to you and your counterparts throughout that 18 county area and just chatting and bringing you up to speed on what's happening in our world and some of the projects we have going on, what's happening with the recreational areas, especially, and then just want to open it up to you all to see what we can do to help you. So with that, I'll turn it over to Craig.
Yeah, thanks, Ethan. So Craig Butler, Director of the Conservancy. I thought I'd start with maybe a piece of history. You may be real familiar with this, or you may not, but it's maybe just to get everybody grounded. So we're a creature of the 1913 flood, and nobody remembers that, but it was and still is the largest loss of life of natural disaster in Ohio, as well as the largest economic impact from a natural disaster in Ohio. And so if you make your way, pretty much further east and further south through the watershed, you see the devastating impacts in the old historical photographs, culminating all the way to the furthest south in Marietta. And so if you're ever at the Lafayette Hotel, the famous hotel and haunted hotel, so they say, in Marietta, but you can see them in Zanesville and you can see them in Coshocton, New Philadelphia, Dover. Elsewhere, the flood impacts are still there, at least the remnants are. You may see a thin blue line on a second or third story building, and that's the historical watermark of the 1913 flood. And so it was a big regional event, not just in Ohio. So the aftermath of that, and it was, somewhat prophetic and really forward thinking in Ohio, but the General Assembly and then the governor was Governor Cox, and Governor Cox was the former mayor of Dayton, and they had traditionally had significant flooding problems in Dayton. And if you've been to Dayton, you see the large levee works that they have, a lot of bike paths protecting the city now, but that wasn't there. National Cash Register was one of the largest companies in the country at the time. And they were saying, we cannot consider having our business completely flooded out every so often. We need to have a statewide strategy around flood mitigation. And so they passed this act called the Von der Heide Act, which really formed a conservancy district law, and conservancy districts are like nothing else in the country. So we're a municipal government like you are, and like Mount Vernon is. And so we're just in the shape of an 8,000 square mile watershed, which starts in Marietta, goes all the way to basically Akron, swings around through here, Ashland, Richland County down to Buckeye Lake. And so that jurisdiction is the counties that Ethan talks about. We have jurisdiction in those 18 and lots of other counties that we touch. And our primary mission has always been flood mitigation. And so the first conservancy district was Miami. They built the levees, dry dams to hold water when they need it. We came along shortly after that, and so we're the largest and took a different approach to where we built our large reservoirs. So Charles Mill, Pleasant Hill, you're probably most familiar with. 77 corridor, you see Atwood, and you see Tappan Lake, and you see Clendening, Piedmont, Leesville. Salt Fork is not one. It's not a flood control lake, but then Seneca Lake is the last one that we have. So our primary mission, we worked with then the president at the time, President Roosevelt, and the Public Works Director to secure $20 million to build all of those reservoirs in 6 years. 1933 to 1930.
Wow.
You couldn't permit one. So the notion of they still stand strong in 1939. They also decided, after a feud between Ohio and the federal government, that the federal government would own the dams, period. The Conservancy, not the state, would own everything else. So while we are a public entity, we're not a state agency, we're not funded by the state. In fact, the state has been very clear to say, Conservancy districts, you have assessment authority you're on your own, go find a way to fund your own operations. So if you made it through the 40s and 50s, we built the reservoirs, recreation kind of comes along with that. So we started to see people wanted to camp. We built some campgrounds. They wanted to be on the water, enjoy the water. Today we have over 5 million visitors. And so we have world-class camping, unbelievable lakes, depending on what you want. You can have a 9 horsepower lake and some of our smaller ones, Pleasant Hill's unlimited. You want to get your speedboat
Is
to
it?
go as fast as you want. Some of the others might as well be 399 horsepower at Seneca Lake and Tappan. So if there's something you want to do, we can accommodate that. They're kind of like children. They're all different. You're not supposed to have a favorite.
I think it Tappan is the biggest one of all these, isn't it?
Well, Seneca's
Sure seems
the largest. Seneca's the third largest wholly contained lake in the state. So it's Grand Lake St. Mary's up northwest Ohio, Indian Lake, and then Seneca, really, and then probably Tappan, I think, something like that. So all told, our mission in flood mitigation is to hold water. We hold about 68 billion gallons of water on any given day and can pretty much double that during heavy water and flood season. We're all interconnected, so we work with the Army to say we're holding water so that we watch what's happening downstream, not only in Ohio, but in the Ohio River, Pittsburgh District, the Army Corps of Engineers down in the Ohio River. So when we can flood where we need to flood, to make sure we're not flooding what we shouldn't flood, and then release water when we can to get people back to normal. Sometimes people forget that's our primary mission, but it has and it always will be. Our third is conservation. So, they believe that the lake, if we built these reservoirs and didn't implement good soil health practices, contour farming, cover crops, and those kinds of things, that we would have them silted in 50 years. And they're not. We planted about 11 million pine trees around the lakes because that was the only thing that would grow. The soil health was very poor. We still have those, a lot of them. Some of them are becoming liabilities because we have now cottage areas built in them, and these 100-year-old pine trees are really big and they make a mess when they land on your house. And so we're now taking some of those out and going through some tree removal programs. But what I would say is the Conservancy basically existed or subsisted until just after the 2010s. We're very fortunate. We own about 60,000 acres of property, and most of that is around our lakes. Most of those lakes are in this I-77 corridor, which is where predominance of new oil and gas, high pressure horizontal drilling is taking place. We had to lease our ground, I say, because it would have been leased taken from us if we didn't. And so our board in 2014 made a difficult decision to say we were going to lease some of our ground for oil and gas. Knowing that we needed the money, number one, because we were essentially broke, but also that the way the state law is written for unitization, that our land would have been unitized and we would have lost control. We developed a lease called the Gold Standard by the industry. It has some environmental provisions in it that I say are rigorous but not onerous, which then has now become the state's lease for leasing of state lands. So we've got a 15-year track record of showing how you can do it. You're not impacting the environment, generating revenue, and then investing that. So our board's approved $350 million of improvements across all of our platform through 2030. The expectation is that'll have a $2 billion impact in the region because we turn that money over by using local contractors and seeing that money. So we're proud of that. Excuse me.
Greg, how is your board comprised?
Yeah, it's a board of 5. We're different. Since we're the largest conservancy, we're even defined in statute as a large conservancy district, then there's one, us. We have a board of 5, others have boards of 3. There's somewhere like 20 incorporated conservancy districts, but really 3 that function, us, Miami, and the Maumee district up in Northwest. Our board is chosen by the Conservancy Court. So we just had our Conservancy Court meeting. Commissioner Kesey saw that June 12th.
Yes.
We have a Conservancy Court, largely ministerial now, but each county of the 18 counties appoints a common pleas judge to come sit on our Conservancy Court. They meet periodically, but we're generally once a year. Some fund transfers. I do an annual report of operations. You can serve as a board member. consecutive to 5-year terms. And then when that's up, they then take nominations and then select a new board person for us, of which we've just got one the last couple of things. Yeah, and so we've got a very sophisticated on board. Most of them are retired executives from, either business, industry, government, and have been they've grown with us. And so we have grown from an organization that was very quiet and didn't have money to do things to now we are completely changed. I mean, just fundamentally completely different, where we can work with communities on improving communities, but also upgrading our systems and become sophisticated in recreation, conservation, and in flood mitigation. So it's been, since that seems like a long time ago, but since 2014, those less than 15 years,
Right.
we have completely transformed it. And it's a little hard. We don't have many of our longer employees left. They've since retired. To say, people, my joke is I say money falls out of my pant legs, so people don't walk in front of me. But people, we don't have many people left that know what it was like to be really poor. I mean, subsistence poor.
I take it you're part of the poor gang.
I'm not, I started 6 years ago, but I knew the organization when they were poor. I was working at the time for Governor Kasich as his policy director, wrote the law for oil and gas development in the state of Ohio. So I knew about what they were going through. And the stories are numerous about using electrical conduit for water pipe and pound and nail straight so we could use them, literally harvesting timber out of our forest to make payroll, and really unsustainably. And so it was, I think, that tenuous. And it's really led into the difficult conversations to say, we have an oil and gas company that wants to lease ground from us and pay us $100 million. Should we do it? We're a conservancy. We need the money. How do we do it so we can safeguard our property and our resource? And I think they largely got it right.
How many employees do you have?
125-ish full-time, and
Okay.
then we add another few hundred in the summer for seasonal staff, either maintenance or working in the parks.
Any of them reside in Knox County?
Oh, I'm sure they do. Yeah, I'm sure they do, but I
Okay.
couldn't tell you how many. Yeah,
Okay.
perhaps they might end up traveling to Charles Mill or Pleasant Hill to do some work for us.
So do you maintain the dams themselves, or does that fall into other
The
government?
Army now owns the dams, but we also have a curious obligation to pay about 25% of the maintenance of the dam. In government speak, it's called a non-cost share federal partner. It means they come asking for money when they need to fix
And you
them.
have to do it.
And that was part of our dilemma, was that, we, in 2010 timeframe, think about post Katrina and the national response of dam assessment. And so they assessed all the dams in the country, and ours were not terrible. But they came back and said, your portion to fix these dams is about $100 million. And we didn't have $100. And so now we've gone through this process in the last 12 or 14 years with them. So our dams are all, they call it DSAC rated, very high, very safe. And we've been able to commit. The costs have come down. It's cost us about $25 million to work with the Army to be more efficient. But we're forced to have a symbiotic relationship with the Army. And thankfully, it's very positive. So out of the Huntington district is
That's a core engineer.
is our sole district. And they're very good.
I heard you at the beginning kind of talk about charging. Do you have the ability to charge people in the area for the Muskingum watershed?
Yeah, so the assessment is curious. It's really kind of an ad valorem type of thing. It's not a property tax. So it's an added value. So the added value is flood protection. And what's the cost of, or what is the benefit of that flood protection that then we can then assess property owners in the counties across the district at 8,000 square miles. So the original assessment, when we didn't have any money, was $12 a year per parcel for residential customers. We have been able to reduce that twice. It's now $2. Generate about $1 million a dollar. So, and that is very restricted money. We can't use it for recreational improvements. We can't use it in the parks. We use it for conservation work and the federal cost share partner to the Corps, and then maintaining the dams. And so it's very restricted, and we wall those dollars off and use them very carefully on how we spend them, because we then get audited to make sure that we're meeting the state law requirement to do that. Our other operating revenues, we're about a $25 million operation. Most of that comes from recreation. We have 3,000 or so-ish now campsites across the platform. Almost all of them have been upgraded to 50-amp electric service, double concrete pads, all new water service, electric service, Wi-Fi. It's not roughing it anymore. That, or maybe that is roughing it. But the demand is there. So I think we've done a few really cool things last year, and I'll just tell you about a few of them. So we talk about all this new money. And I started in 2020, and I said, okay, first of all, they were still using oil and gas money to run the operation as part of the administrative operations. And I said, somewhat of a fool's errand, because it may not be in our lifetime, but in somebody's next lifetime, oil and gas will go away. And if you're addicted to that, then you're going to have a hard time. You'll be in the same place you were 15 years ago. So we take all of our oil and gas money and we use that for projects. So like I said, that $300 million of projects we're doing across the platform, a lot of it's infrastructure, a lot of it's upgrades in the parks, a lot of it's grant dollars into communities. That's where that money comes from. The operational dollars is what we produce as basically a not-for-profit business. So when I first started it, I said, we can't do that. And I said, we need to make sure that the next generation, or even the one after that, can look back and say we did it right, and that we generate, how do we make sure that there's money for those generations to maintain this? And so, we can invest dollars very restricted as a government, much like anybody else. Uniform Depository Act restricts us, so we can buy government paper, and the rates aren't terrible, but not great. We asked the Attorney General if we could take our money for our oil and gas revenues and put it into a private endowment. And Attorney General Yost says, I think so. I can write you an opinion, but that's only as good as long as I stay. He just left. He just left. So thankfully, we didn't rest on those underpinnings and said, can we change the law to make it clear? And long story short, we took all of last year to convince the General Assembly and the governor that we could take ostensibly our public money and make it private. And so investing it into a private endowment, we were able to do that. And now starting to, as we see additional revenues come in, populate that. So we did our first installment of $25 million into that endowment. We'll keep adding to it. It's probably the most important thing I'll ever do for the Conservancy. It's very good, solid foundational financial footing.
So, with that money exchange that you're talking about, do you guys do grants or something like that for counties in need of repair?
Yeah, we've got 3, and we're keep adding some additional ones. So they're really nice. We set up a grant program. It's like of our own, so we can design what we want it to be and how it runs and operates. But we knew that we wanted to start pushing money back into the county's community. So we did a partnership and watershed management grant program, and it's now got three legs to it. It started out but there was no other grant program across the state that helped communities with debris removal or log jams in streams, which then causes flooding and perpetuates erosion. So we started that and have expanded it into conservation. So we do about $1.5 million a year in these EWM grants, we call it, for either conservation and or infrastructure improvements, log jam removal programs. Really can be quite diverse. Everything from a project we helped the city of Zanesville with a major sewer collapse that was imminent for contaminating public water supply, to helping communities remove log jams and bridge abutments, so it eliminates the ability for them to hold broad jams. The new one we'll announce next week, and so it's not a great secret, but we spent all this money getting our recreational assets so people come to us. if we say, we're now talking about a community recreational grant program where we want to help communities with recreation, like
It's nice.
splash pads and parking or swing sets and you name it, playgrounds, those kind of things. So we'll unveil that here in the fall, or just in the next couple of weeks. We'll start taking applications in the fall and award them by the end of the year. Dedicated for the first year $1 million to that project. So if you have communities here that would be interested, they'll start to see information get pushed out in the next week or so. And
And that'll be under,
It's gonna be called Connecting Communities, so that'll be through us, MWCD, so we'll make sure when that goes live that you all and your locals have that information. As Craig mentioned, it's $1 million, it's probably gonna be not nearly enough, but it'll be a good test, good pressure point to say where do we need to be.
closest projects we have going on closest here would be at Charles Mill and Pleasant Hill. So if you're familiar with Charles Mill Park, went up the peninsula there to the Messerly Center. That whole campground needed redone, so we closed that down last year and have rebuilt it. It's now open for reservation as of this weekend. But the signature piece of that is not only did we upgrade all the camp lots, but the restrooms, instead of pit toilets, real restrooms, is the playground. So there's a new, literally $1 million playground there. It's fantastic, right on the beach, rebuilt the beach. So it'd be a real attraction for parents and kids.
Nice.
And then we worked with the Schradleys who own the marina there and we worked with Senator Romanchuk, who got us a little bit of money, not a lot, but to rebuild all of the houseboat moorings along the lakefront. And so we're just now finishing that. As you know, we got a lot of rain, so we're a couple of weeks behind. Both Charles Mill and Pleasant Hill fluctuate really widely. Pleasant Hill can go up 12 feet in a day.
yeah,
And so we had some stuff underwater, but we'll be done. Pleasant Hill has some new beach piece that will be done, and then we're redoing some of the bigger campground areas, campground age, and some of the primitive areas that will get done next 12 months. So we're still making really basic strategic investments across the district, and then we're also thinking about what's next. So the new generation likes to perhaps come, but they don't have either the money or the want to have a big truck and the camper and the golf cart and all of that stuff, which can get really expensive.
We used to rent boats there at
Yeah,
the marina.
that's right.
Not
So-
sure we're
You can bring the boat
what if
in.
they still did.
Yes, yeah.
Use the beach and rent a boat and take them out. And
So, you're
Right.
smack in the middle of this, Airbnbs and experiences. People want to go sleep in a treehouse or an airplane hangar, or the crazier the better. I think the younger generation will pay for it. And so we're expanding that footprint. We've got some areas we're gonna redo the campgrounds and for like smaller teardrop campgrounds for that generation. And then also we're building some tree houses at Atwood, really elevated platform homes that hang out over the water. Yeah, and so we're trying to
sounds fun.
move with the industry. Financially, we've just been strong without oil and gas, but oil and gas has been really significant. We've got now that the state has started doing some leasing of ground, they did parts of Salt Fork State Park. Now they're down in the Egypt Valley Wildlife Area, which surrounds Piedmont Lake, which then brings a lot of attention to the 6,000 acres or so we have at Piedmont. And so we're taking some offers to potentially lease that. And it's probably our last large acreage lease. But those that can provide us with some funding for some rates long term.
So
I take it they're fairly long-term leases when you do that with oil and gas.
And so we generally put a development proposal in on an acreage, so they'll have to come in and develop it over a 5-year period. But the wells, they have a decline curves, so production's really heavy first 5 years, and then a long tail, if you will, for the next 25 or 30 years. As long as they're producing, then they have the ability to come in at different points and be able to refrac those wells if they need to, or do some adjustments to increase oil production. So they could literally be around for 50 years.
So you have grant programs for getting rid of log jams?
So-
And then do you have around here the river cleanups where they're getting tires and trash out of the river? Do you guys provide grants for that as well?
We do through our conservation program. We did, my latest tire take back program was with EPA down at Seneca Lake, and last year, we did it up here, some.
Yeah, 2 years ago, we did it at Pleasant Hill, so we've seen just generally if we use one of our locations, we have
Mhm.
more space, we'll contract and work with folks that could take the tires, but we've taken significant numbers of pounds out of the areas, and so we kind of rotate that through the district, somewhat of a newer program, so if that's something you all would like to partner
Well,
on.
we
can certainly look
do
at that.
what, 2 or 3 cleanups every year.
One time, at the end of the year, last year, we took 119 tires out of the river.
Take a tractor trailer loads when we have people come, but
Mhm.
yeah, open dump is a real problem, as it is for you all too, and we've got a small but mighty full OPATA certified ranger force, and both full-time and seasonal rangers, and when they're not patrolling on the lake and in the campgrounds, particularly in the off season, we have them out in the district. We're catching people dump stuff all over, but they're just so prolific. We can go in and clean up a site and you turn around and the next week you go back and it's just as bad as it was, if not before. Mostly with this really difficult stuff to manage. Tires and mattresses probably is the biggest, and they just don't know what to do with them, so they clandestinely go dump them on our property.
Hmm.
That's something we can put cameras up and we can chase people around and we do it, but it seems like a never ending battle for the sheriff's office here too, I'm sure.
We hear lots of rumblings about data centers and
Mhm.
water,
Mhm.
and obviously, I guess fracking was an issue before that,
Sure.
Do you have concerns about that? I know, are you address some of those things for you and conservancy, protecting the water, but then yet also the need for
Yeah,
space for these.
really protective of the water. We do sell some water for oil and gas. We do sell it for, some of the communities will buy water from us for public drinking water supply. Our first mission is to protect the recreational resource and the quality of the water. Our water quality is better than anywhere else in the state. So we're very careful about that. Data centers are, I think interesting. We've had some approach us now that they're starting to see property prices so expensive, in the core New Albany area, and they're paying $500,000 an acre in some cases. And so we see them looking at places like Tuscarawas County, Harrison County, Carroll County. We've not done anything in terms of water sales with them. Some of them are using some really old technology and wanted millions of gallons of water a day. Like I say, we hold a lot of water, but we're just not interested in being on a 40-year commitment for 6-7 million gallons of water a day. It's just not our mission.
Hmm.
But the fact that we have it brings them.
I heard rumblings that they were reaching out to you, so we didn't know. So that's not something
We may, so I think what I'm watching happen is, I think the concerns around data center early were about electric power use,
The grid.
driving demand, and then raising prices. The president's executive order now is, you're gonna build a data center, bring your power with it, and you gotta pay for it. So I think that's largely modulating it, and then the technology now in the water side, particularly on the data centers, is that they're getting close to 100% recycled systems. So they use some makeup water and they can manage that in a closed loop system and recycle.
like geothermal.
Yeah, it's not the millions of gallons of water per day. And so if we had an opportunity to talk with somebody that we believed in their technology, we wouldn't say no out of hand. We would talk to them. But I know it's a really sensitive topic. I think about it, if I take off my conservancy hat and just think about data centers in a way that, from a kind of community perspective, what they can bring in, and they have a footprint, they build a facility, they're generating a lot of tax revenue. But they're not bringing a lot of jobs. But they're also not creating a big stress on your social service network too. As long as you don't give them 100% tax break for the duration, so I think those are all levers that you all are trying to think about and pull at some point. Is it something you want in the community? Is it something that could generate significant revenue without having, and fire, police, roads, all those other services get taxed and bringing a lot of new jobs with it, so it's,
The biggest one being the water quality.
Yeah.
And the electric issue, right, those are the two big concerns, so that.
Yeah, are they getting, I mean, are you hearing they're getting close to the technology of using a lot less water and
Yeah.
being cleaner than they were?
yeah,
Because obviously the connotation here, data center, it's scares everybody. but-
Billions of what?
But if they're able to,
Gallons.
obviously,
I think they're getting quite sophisticated. And they're using air cooled technology now, so I think they're, and then closed loop recycling water tank. And I think you'll see that, and we had Janet Ramaswamy was in at the Buckeye Career Center and he was asked about this, and I thought he had a good answer, which is like, I'm not opposed to data centers, but you can't pass your power costs on to the public.
Right,
You gotta bring it with you. You gotta pay for it. Either you're bringing the power plant with you or you're securing that in a way that's not raising power prices and the same on the water side of things. So
How do they bring power with them outside of nuclear or solar? I mean,
they build a small natural gas fired power plant.
yeah, and they say they're gonna have to fire something up then.
500 to 800 megawatt,
Yeah.
combined cycle natural gas turbine. Behind the meter, 100%, so they're not putting it out on the grid, it's just for self-consumption.
and then it even was in a meeting, they were talking about some of those are even generating more power than they need and they're selling back to the grid
They can,
to
yeah, they
become
definitely
more
can.
efficient.
The easier way to do it is you're not putting it back on the grid, because then you don't have to go through the PJM and PUCO interconnection
Mhm.
process, so if you could generate it, that's only what you need. You don't need anybody's approval to do it,
Okay.
not saying that you shouldn't, if you have, some of them are building 800 or 1,500 megawatt power plants with them, knowing that they're gonna then push power back on the grid. Difficulty until recently, and you talked about Congressman Balderson, he's been pushing, like, getting PJM to get them to approve these projects quicker. It's taking 3-5 years to get a project approved, just to get it point where you could build it. There were a lot of projects in the queue, so when you submit a project to the PJM interconnection, basically get in line. And there's all these other projects in front of it, whether they're renewable projects or otherwise. 90% of them aren't gonna get built,
Mhm.
but you can't get around them. So now they've built off ramps to get around these projects and get them approved much quicker at the federal level. So I think they knew there was a looming price and energy crisis coming, so they did do something so that in government, that makes you move. So-
Yeah.
And so I think they finally said we had to move.
so do you have standards in place, or was that discussed at your June 12th meeting? Of what you would and would not tolerate concerning like these data centers?
No, none of that's in the jurisdiction of the court. It's really up to our board of directors, and then ultimately me to make some recommendations. It's kind of like an analysis we would go through. We did an analysis before we decided to sell any water for oil and gas. We had I always call it third-party validation. You go find somebody that doesn't have a stake in it that can technically give you an answer. We hired the US Geologic Survey to come in and say, if we sold water, it sounds like a lot. To frack a well, it takes about 60 million gallons of water. We said, if we took all of that water instantaneously out of the lake, 2 million gallons a day for 30 days. We took it all at once, and we didn't see any atmospheric recharge, groundwater recharge. What would happen to the lake level? And it was like 3 sheets of notebook. And so, we're able to analyze those every time we get a request to say, is it gonna impact the resource? And if the answer is yes, we won't do it. We'll also have a provision to trigger in these contracts, and we use them for the first time in 2024 in the drought, particularly at Atwood and Leesville. We had water take points there, and we got to the point where it was impacting our boaters to get to their docks and the sailboats to get out. And it was mostly because it hadn't rained, but so we just turned off those water intakes, said, yeah, we're sorry, but you gotta go somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're looking out for that. Our greatest assets here are our farmland and our water.
Yeah.
And our history, and we don't want our history to be greater than our future by running into the water and the farmland.
We agree, 100%.
Great,
Yeah.
that's great to hear.
So during that same process where we turned it off for gas companies, we did open up a few of our lakes free of charge to the agricultural community, say crops, livestock, whatever you need. Essentially, if you can get it, you can come and put the straw in and take that out. So we partnered with several local water conservation districts. They set that program up, but they were using our lakes for use. So that's part of our mission as well, to make sure those folks can get what they need to make sure that,
Yeah,
again,
good for you.
I think the state was trying to do that, but they got caught in their own bureaucracy and couldn't get it done, so we just did it. They were a little upset with us that we actually just did it. We didn't publicize it other than the soil water district, so if you need it, just take it and then send us how much you took, and for 5,000 gallons out of a 6 billion gallon reservoir, even in a drought, it's not gonna make a difference, and so.
That's just common sense, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
good. It's good. You can pass that bureaucracy. Unfortunately, that holds up.
I know it's not up here, and maybe the last thing we'll just talk about is, we've talked about, we've not added really a park asset for us in the last 90 years. Way down south, Marietta is where all of this floodwater goes, and they're somewhat tongue-in-cheek joke is the only thing we send them is floodwater. And they're right, below Seneca Lake, from I-70 south. So George Broughton, and his family you drive south, you'll see it now, you'll see the Broughton Nature Preserve. What you'll see is like his sea of Morton white and green buildings along the road where she has all this office space. Well, he also owned about 800 acres of family property and a dairy farm. And his father apparently acquired the property and allowed it to be for open public use. And so he asked George and his sisters to maintain the public use of the property. So there were some mountain biking trails, some frisbee trails, and it was just open to the public. Well, George just said, he's getting older, and approached us and asked if we would be interested in purchasing it as our missions align. And so we did. And so we now have the Broughton Nature Preserve and Park as an event center. So we're now managing that as really a more urban park. It actually connects to downtown Marietta, just on the backside of the park. And that's been a new asset for us. We did not know this. We paid George and his family the fair market value of the property was about $3.5 million. He and his family then took the majority of that money and invested it at the Marietta Community Foundation for us to permanently manage the park.
Nice.
He got virtually no tax, he got no tax benefit from it at all, but he just felt so strongly about maintaining the legacy that his dad asked him to maintain, that he wanted us to have some assets to do. So we've gotten a really great welcome from the community. It's going well, and we've also continued to buy property in the Wills Creek watershed over near Coshocton as the AEP land comes up for sale, the old surf ground. We buy large blocks of that and then keep it open to the public. So we picked up 3,000 or 4,000 acres there with the Office of Public Works and the Western Reserve Land Conservancy, just so that can stay in the public sphere. It's pretty rough. It's all unredone oil and coal lands. So we've got 100-foot high walls that if you're not careful in the middle of the night, you come off of, but it's very unique property. And so we're excited to potentially do some stuff in those three properties.
Make me want to go to the lake.
Yes, this is the perfect week.
What's your favorite lake of all the lakes you manage?
He's not allowed.
No,
I can't,
Yeah.
so I say, it's
you
like,
can't tell us to-
what I will say is, it's like, you're not supposed to have a favorite child, but I can't, because I only have one. So
Easy.
I would say, it depends on your mood, but if I'm 90% of the time, I would probably pick Leesville. Leesville Lake is relatively small, but it's also the best muskie fishing habitat in the region, not just in Ohio. And so we're pulling 50-inch muskie
There you go.
out of Leesville, and it's addictive.
Okay,
It's fun.
You trolling for those?
We cast for them. Friend likes to fly fish for them. I'm not that patient, so I'll cast for them. We do troll for them in the summer. We'll basically troll for them, but
What about you?
early.
Well, geez, so I grew up in the area, and so my family spent a lot of time, still does at Atwood, which is probably the flagship of all of the lakes, probably the most
Atwood?
popular. Yeah, that's in north east Tuscarawas County, and then there's also split with Carroll County. Reason being, and Craig can talk to this as well. We used to have one lodge, just like the state system, didn't make money for us either, and so we sold that. But growing up, every holiday or something happening in the family, just like most of the people there, you're going out to Atwood Lake to the lodge for that event. And so it was beautiful at one point in time. The sale we got back from that sale about 400 or 500 acres. So we still have that, but we don't have the lodge itself. But so Atwood for me is probably, just near and dear to my heart. But like Craig, Leesville or Clendenning have to be up there too. Reason being is they're so peaceful. They're two of the smaller lakes that we have. Fishing's great, and just beautiful pieces of country. So I would say one of those two.
Great.
I'm not kidding. I said, if I could blindfold you and put you on the shore of Leesville, probably parts of Clendenning too, you'd swear you're in Minnesota or in the boundary waters. 'Cause no shoreline development. It's just, it's amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
It's gorgeous. Yeah. So those are
Great.
little 9 horsepower lakes and
Right.
I seen Seneca. Saw that.
Seneca's a big one. You wanna go get your big wake boat, go skiing, tubing, all the rest of that, which is a lot of fun. You do it there or at Tappan Lake or up at Pleasant Hill,
And don't they have a cliff that you swing out into the water?
probably.
I think I was youth. I was a youth leader at one point. I think I did that.
Probably discourage that.
Yeah.
But
It's
yeah,
fun.
and it really does make, what you really love to see is like you can drive into the park. And you see. It's, parents feel strongly enough and safe enough for their kids just to let them go. Like we did out in the neighborhood. Till it was dark, so it's at least a little more of a controlled environment. They feel safe, they're on their scooters, they're on their bikes. And they go basically wherever they want for the day. Some get in trouble, but just being able to see kids like that have almost unrestricted fun.
Safe.
It's really
Yes.
cool. It's really, that makes
That's
it,
Leesville.
any of all of them.
Oh.
Yeah, we were laughing about that just the other day, friends of mine, my age. After breakfast, the outdoors was your friend. See you when the lights come on, and we were all laughing the stuff we did. And he said, we still have all of our extremities and everything.
You're very lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I think this is great. I've been the county administrator almost 10 years. I don't think you guys have been in, so I think this is a great
Yes.
thing you're doing out, because I don't think probably any of us knew the full extent of what you guys do,
love to
so.
come back, keep doing
Yeah,
it.
I think it'd be good to have you guys come in and update the commissioners
Yeah,
periodically.
you do give us a report now and then.
Yeah, we'll send you, Ethan, one of the things we do at Conservancy Court is do the annual report of operations, so. I give an oral update of that. Ethan and the team put together our annual report, which is. It is not your typical annual report of just, financial facts and figures. It's supposed to be really interactive and tell a story with pictures and words, as I say, and they do a phenomenal job. So we can get it to you hard copy or electronically. You look through it and you're just like, it's.
So it's
I'll make copies of that.
the lakes, right? Especially where they.
That's perfect. I'll send you a link. But here's a hard copy.
Would you be all right if we link that out on our social media? You said it's the electronic one.
Yeah, it's on our website. The others do the same. So we send it to all of our partners and other state agencies and stuff. And we get a lot of college students that are doing projects and things like that. So they reach out and go through each of those annual reports, but they're all online. You can go all the way back to I think 2003 when it was like the first time we actually put one online. So they're all there historically and archived for you.
I think I get a sense, and if you go through it, as we did for the first time ever, a strategic plan when I came 6 years ago. We're just closing in on the end of that first strategic plan, and to say that we use it every day, it drives decisions making both in very short term and long term. And you'll see that reflected in there, our high focus on conservation work, recreation, flood mitigation and what that really means on a day-to-day basis. It's the first place that I've seen where you do a strategic plan and then don't just set it on the shelf and walk away from it, but it really is a guidepost for us. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, gentlemen.
Wonderful, thank you.
Ethan,
Much
Craig.
appreciated.
Sir?
Good chance.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Thank you. Very nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. If you all ever need anything, I always reach out if you're in the area, let us know too. Be glad to take you out and thank you. What's going on? I'll send you a link for the.
Love that. Thank you so much. Or great, thanks, Ethan.
Thank you very much for sending it out.
Yeah, no, have a good one.
All right, commissioners, we only have a few items for you today. We need to approve the reappointment of Judy Gregg to the Mental Health Recovery Board for Knox and Lincoln counties.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And then we have a proven advertisement for a public hearing on the Knox County website for a salt brine application for B&J Drilling Company.
So, second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And then we have a utility permit for Dean Moran Oil and Gas on Jug Run Road in Jackson Township.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And then there's a contract amendment between Knox County JFS and Forensic Fluid Laboratories to extend the contract for another, that was in effect until June of 2025 through June of 2027. So it's an extension of their contract.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's signed by all three of you. And then we have your bills. And I think that's all I have for you. Anything else popped in, Mallory, that other than that?
Nope.
Okay, that's all I've got, Commissioner.
Commissioner Purcell, do you have anything you want to add?
Just a reminder that to the people on the last Saturday of the month is going to be the airport's celebration of ribbon cutting out of their airport in a new facility.
Looking forward to that. And also a grand opening coming soon for the, trying to think the food court.
Found.
Founder's Food Court, yes.
I have nothing. I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
You stand adjourned.
So